Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. My name is Jackson Mummy, and each week we'll be bringing you updated information about the bar exam and what you need to do in order to make the next bar exam your last bar exam. Ready to get started? Let's jump to it. Hey everybody, welcome. It is Wednesday, May 3rd. We're glad to have you with us. It's May. I guess that means we're getting close to really getting serious about this July exam. I'm glad to have everybody here with us. We've got June here today, and we have Brianna and Amanda, and Tracy will be joining us in a few minutes. We have a lot to discuss. We've got a lot of results in the last couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about Bootcamp. We still have a couple of spots left open in Bootcamp, so we're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be talking about student questions that we got, and I think we've got a full hour ahead of us. Let me just say hi to Brianna and Amanda. How are you guys doing? What's happening in your world?
I'm doing great in my world, and I think we're going to talk about it today. Some of the bars that I'm a member of released the results. So I've seen a lot of
Yeah.
talk about that and just back and forth, but I'll table that because I think you're going to get into it.
Yeah, we are for sure. The news is not great. We'll foreshadow that a little bit. Our students have done pretty well, and I'm really pleased. And congratulations, to everybody that's passed. We've got some incredible interviews coming up with people that have passed the bar, and I'm very excited about that. So good stuff. I want to talk a little bit about boot camp before we get to the results, because boot camp is coming up on May 19th and 20th here in Denver. And as of this morning, we still have 2 spots left, only 2 golden tickets left. And this is going to be an extraordinary event. I went back today and I watched the video that's up on our boot camp webpage of students talking after they left boot camp. And this was pre-COVID. And I saw a bunch of them that have passed, which was really cool. But just listening to what people had to say about the experience. Look, if you're on the fence about attending or not, go watch that video. It's 10 minutes long. And it's literally people as they walked out the door saying, here's what this experience was like for me. And if you listen to that and you think, yeah, I don't think I want to do it, I don't know what's going on in your brain. But here's what I can tell you, and I'm going to be very direct about this, and not everybody's going to love it. If you're serious about passing the bar exam, you should be at boot camp. There is just nothing that gives you so much material and input and jumpstart as quickly as this does. It's 2 days of learning how to use photo reading, how to mind map, how to work on mindset, how to write your essays, how to do performance tests, if you're in one of those jurisdictions, how to do the MBE. And I just got results. I mean, we don't have all the results in, obviously. We're still waiting on California and Georgia and a few other states. But in the February 2023 exams, I just went down the list and there was a bunch of people that were boot camp students who passed. In fact, I think I sent that email out to some of you in the last couple of days. I know that it means you got to spend some money. So what we did is we made it possible for you to pay for this over 8 months, which I think is a pretty reasonable way to do it. And I can also tell you that Denver is a place that if you can't drive to it, you can fly pretty inexpensively. There's a lot of options here. And the housing is actually pretty inexpensive. There's a ton of choices here. We're going to take care of your meals on Friday and Saturday for lunch and Friday night's dinner. So you really don't have a huge expense. In other words, we're doing everything we can to make this affordable for you. If you're already a photo reader, we're even going to take $400 off your tuition. June, if you could put up the link for the bootcamp application. There is an application. When we're down to a couple of seats, it's first come, first served, but we're also trying to make sure we get the right group of people there. So not everybody gets accepted into camp. And we're going to close out the registrations on May 7th. So you've still got a few days left, but I just don't know what else to say to people about this is your chance. Don't tell me, oh, I did everything that I could do, but you didn't come to boot camp. It really makes a difference. So June, you want to say anything about that? Because you're my sidekick at this for the last few years.
I love the fact that we can see the change in students, see a physical change of how people walk in to how they leave. I actually wish I could videotape this. Each person, they walk in a little scared, a little apprehensive, a little, I don't know what's going on. And they leave so full of confidence, ready to take this test today. Like Sunday, the test was Sunday, they would go take it. And it's amazing and beautiful to watch that transformation. And they walk in not knowing, not real sure, is photo reading, is it really, is it going to work? And seeing that it works, that it works. And just like I said, just really whatever they're struggling with, getting those answers right then and being able to just zoom and move forward. And there's no more banging your head against the wall and the struggle of what's my next step, because you walk away from boot camp knowing what that is and how to move forward with whatever new challenge comes at you. And so that's why I love boot camp. And honestly, it's seeing the transformation in each student as they go through it.
Yeah. So we've got Judge Dawson. Tracy is here, and she's going to be at boot camp as well. This is your first boot camp, though, isn't it, Tracy?
Of this kind, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. She's done a few others. I think the experience and the perspective that you bring as a retired judge and a retired member of the clergy and somebody that practiced law for many years is really invaluable to students in this small group setting.
I hope that experience brings with it some calm going forward, that you can do this. I didn't have this type of study aid when I took the bar. I wish I had, but you have this opportunity. And I would just echo what June said. There's no substitute for in-person. And it's great that we have Zoom. This is something that came out of COVID, that we can all connect this way. So you can be all across the country and in other countries and get the benefit of what we have to offer. But there is no substitute for being in the room with somebody and having that person work intensively with you one-on-one. So I
Yeah.
encourage you to come meet us personally and let us help you.
I
It's
just wanna
exciting.
say, I just want to say one thing. I know everybody sees Jackson as a little stodgy. It's Jackson, it's Professor Jackson. And he's hardcore and he wants you to do your best. But at boot camp, here's the secret. We actually have a lot of fun. Like we joke and we have fun. And it's not so if you're like, June, I'm not gonna pay to spend 2 days at some boring conference. It's not like that at all. It's a lot of fun, trust
It is indeed. I only wish that Brianna and Amanda, they took their bar exams during COVID, so we didn't get that opportunity. But man, I would have loved their energy in the room. So anyway, you get them on group calls. You get June and Tracy and me live at boot camp. So a couple spots left, please. Come to boot camp. Just come. It'll make a difference. You'll be very happy that you did. So we'll leave it at that. And if you've got questions, reach out, let us know. So with that, I want to turn to results over the last couple of weeks. There have been a lot of them, and I'll just let the panel chime in wherever they want, but I'm going to go through the list a little bit here and just share some of the numbers. I think I would give you this overview. The trend continues across the country. The results are the pass rates are lower than they've ever been. The repeat taker pass rates are lower than they've ever been. Now, I want to juxtapose that. The rates for our students are the same or better than they've been. And I think that, and they're better than the state averages. So if you're in our course, the odds were in your favor. If you weren't in our course and you're watching or listening to this, we'd love to talk with you and give you a feeling for what's going on. But let me just give you a sense of some of the states and what's happened. Alabama had an overall pass rate of 31%. That's the overall. That takes your breath away, doesn't it? There were 300 examinees and the repeater pass rate was 21%. That's a state that's pretty staggering to me. Now, we had students in Alabama who passed. And frankly, anybody that passed in Alabama, you got to feel like good for you, extraordinary. But that number got my attention for sure. Connecticut came in at 35% overall pass rate. These are overall rates, folks. These are not the repeater rates. And in Connecticut, the repeater rate was 24%. So that's up in your neck of the woods, Amanda, in the Northeast. But that is a pretty stunning. In the District of Columbia, which is a big jurisdiction, 600 bar takers, they only reported an overall rate, which was interesting. But the overall rate was 45%. So a little better than the other two states, but still, we're getting fewer than half of the people that are taking the bar. So we've got all those first time takers not passing. Brianna, let me jump in here. Your take on this, because you've been around this for a little while. When you see numbers like 31%, 35%, 45% overall, what's your take when you see those kind of numbers?
You have to ask yourself, or where is the disconnect? Are we not preparing our students throughout law school to take this test? Or is the test completely faulty? Are we not testing the right material? Or who is failing? And it's certainly not the students, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I know, Amanda, you've talked about this a lot. The test is broken. It's just broken. And these numbers really support that, don't they?
Yeah. And I think another thing we have to look at is even not just how we're preparing our students in school, but then what kind of review courses, what kind of prep are they doing, right? Because we know a lot of schools have big box review courses. We won't name any names, deals you get in as a 1L, but what's going on? And like, where's the accountability there? Because it should be somewhere. But I think like we definitely need to have some accountability for that 35%.
Yeah,
No,
that's
it's
right.
just,
That's right. It's hard to imagine why somebody would sign up for a course that says, hey, we work with first time takers and our pass rate is 30%. I think that we have the combination of these two things. The test is broken and the traditional ways of preparing for it just aren't working. And there's empirically no way to get around that. Let me give you a couple of other states. Maryland had 350 bar takers and they had a 32% overall pass rate. 32%. Their repeat taker rate was 24%. Massachusetts, one of the states you're barred in, I think, Amanda, had
correct.
had a 40% overall pass rate and a 28% pass rate. That's pretty staggering. And
Yeah, I'm even like in my head trying to think of how those numbers compared to last year, but
oh, they're
yeah,
worse.
yeah, here in the
I get the
north.
numbers, they're worse. And that was on
Yeah,
500 bar takers. So we're seeing that trend. Michigan, which is new to the UBE, had a 35% overall pass rate. New Hampshire had a 50%. That sounds good all of a sudden but only 30 bar takers, right? Then we get to a couple of the big states, the ones that people are really obviously focused on. New York released results. The New York results, there were 3,300 bar takers, 40% overall pass rate, 28% repeater pass rate. Now, this is really a stunning number to me. When you get to a big jurisdiction like New York, following the same trend that we saw in Florida and some other states, that's a horrible number, way worse than last year. And I think really discouraging to a lot of people. And yet we had New York students that passed. We had people that came to us and were successful on this test, but it was a stunningly bad result in New York. I'll just jump down to Texas for a minute because we got the numbers in Texas. They released the week before. Their overall pass rate was 45% with a 34% repeater rate. Now, I could go through the list and continue on this way. I'm not interested in the dirge, but I think it's critical. My takeaway from this is if you think you're going to take the bar exam and give it something less than all, right, everything, it's just not going to work, is it? Brianna, I know you're a big proponent of go all in.
Oh, absolutely. If you're going to study for the bar exam right now, it has got to be your number one priority. Bottom line, everything that makes its way into your life, you have got to ask, is this something that is going to help my goal of passing the bar exam? And if the answer is no, then your answer is no. You just have to. If you're not making it at the top of your list, you're just not going to pass, it's really scary a little bit. I feel like we're going to come into this shortage of attorneys entering the market as well. Not to get into the politics of it, but you've got to make sure it's up.
Yeah. Look, if you've just heard the last 5 minutes and these numbers and you're not a little shaken, if you're not a little unnerved by it, you're not paying attention. I've done this for 30 years. These are the worst numbers I've ever seen by far. Now, we're still waiting on California, Georgia, a few other states. I don't have an expectation. I mean, California is the toughest bar in the country. I think we could see a disaster coming in terms of results. Overall, I'm very encouraged by our students. I think we're going to see some great results. But I just want you to know that if you are watching and listening to this, and you think you're going to do, and you're a repeat bar taker, and you plan to do more of what you did in the past, and you expect to pass, that isn't going to happen. Statistically, it's just not going to happen. And even when I do videos for our students who are not successful on the exam, what I say to them is, you got to do something different within our course. You got to come to boot camp. You got to add photo reading. You need to get coaching with Brianna or Amanda or Tracy or me. You've got to do mindset coaching with June. You've got to do different things, and you got to put as much effort into this as you possibly can. Otherwise, I just don't think it's going to work. Amanda, you got any thoughts about that?
I agree. And I think it's that important. And I think that you all, beyond the fact that you need to go all in, I think you all deserve to go all in. It's going to look different. All in's going to look different for everyone else, but you got to ask yourself, what can I really do? Not what can I reasonably do, not what can I get by with, not how can I skate by. Remember my good friend Allie, when we were graduating law school so long ago, she said, I'm going to really need to become the best version of myself to pass the bar exam, because this mediocre me I've been using to get through 3 all year, it's not going to cut it. So I still think of her from time to time, right? We all need to become the best version of ourselves. And we have a lot of tools in this course to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I want to just cap this off by saying that if you are not engaged with personal coaching, if you're not working with me or Brianna or Amanda or Tracy, I would encourage you to do that. I don't think there's any substitute for the accountability that comes with this. And we've assembled, I think, a very strong group of coaches who have real insights and abilities in this teaching process. And not everybody likes to work with everybody else, but you're going to benefit by the time and attention that you get. And I can just tell you that it makes a difference. And we've seen that over and over again for people. In your course, you can upgrade and add that coaching. We make that pretty affordable. You can pay for it over 12 months. And if you have the chance to work with Brianna or Amanda or Tracy, you should take advantage of it. They've got real ability and insight. They know what they're doing. They know how to coach. They've been through the process. Not everybody's going to work with me. Not everybody wants to work with me. And I don't have the capacity to work with everyone. But I think that if you are debating whether or not coaching makes a difference, we see it over and over again. When I do these interviews with passing students, the first words out of their mouth usually are, I worked with, and it made a difference. And I just think it's something you want to do. So I encourage you to do that and to check it out. We still have capacity to take on coaching. This is when people start shifting their mindset and saying, okay, it's time for me to start working with a coach. And so all of our coaches, all 3 of our other coaches have times and capacity. So hope you'll decide to do that. Yeah.
It just kind of sounds like a perfect little plug here to talk about the time management coaching.
Yeah.
If you guys are struggling saying, I just can't seem to find the time to study, I've got all these other priorities, I just can't seem to fit it in my schedule, those questions are things that I can help you answer. And we can help find that solution, find that time, get it on your calendar, and help get you to that finish line. If it's something you're struggling with, please don't hesitate to schedule a time management coaching call with me. It is something that being harnessed that over being able to taking the bar exam myself. And it is the primary reason I was able to succeed. So please don't let that be holding you back.
Yeah, I would encourage people to check out that time management workshop. Brianna also does something called Personal Writing Workshop, which is a 2-session series to just help you with the mechanics of writing. If you don't want to do a full coaching package, or even if you do, doing this first session with Brianna, first couple sessions can make a huge difference.
If you hear these statistics and it makes you want to throw up, what it means is that your anxiety is getting the better of you, because when it comes right down to it, the statistics don't matter. What matters is how you prepare and how you come at this test, and you can do this. I want to bring an acronym to you, and I'm going to encourage you to take some time today. It will take you 15 minutes, but work through this acronym and really get honest with yourself. It's called RAIN, RAIN. R is recognizing. Recognize where you are in the process, recognize what maybe hasn't worked for you in the past, and where your growing edges are and being able to be ready for this exam. Recognize that these numbers are very low because people come in unprepared. People come in with too much anxiety. People come in and cannot mediate the cultural differences and the unfairness of the exam, the brokenness, as Jackson said, of the exam. So recognize where you are. And then A is acknowledge. Acknowledge what you need to do. And that is what Brianna and Amanda and Jackson and June have all been talking to you about already today. Acknowledge that you need to set other things aside for the next couple months and make this your priority. This has to be your focus. Introspection is high. Why have you maybe not been successful in the past? Did you not devote the right time to it? Did you not have good time management skills? Was your not up to par? Were you writing based on a law school exam instead of on a bar exam? Have you looked at the materials here but not fully engaged in them? So introspection. And then N is the most important part that I want you to do tonight, which is new framing. I want you to frame how you're going to come at this study and how you're going to come at taking this test. RAIN. I think it's a very valuable exercise for you to do tonight and to write it out and put it someplace where you see it all the time.
That's great. Thank you. I think that's a terrific framing for all of this. With that, let's go ahead and turn to some student questions that we got, and we'll turn them on to the panel and see what the thoughts are. I want to take one that was, I thought, generally encompassed a lot of the message. I get a lot of emails every day, and I try to summarize them and put them into this setting. We had a student who has to retake the exam, and they said, I'm so ready to have the bar exam behind me. I'm not looking forward to having to study again over the next 3 months. It's exhausting, and I'm growing weary. Any suggestions to keep my energy and focus? That, and I got some version of that from a lot of people over the last few days. So June, let me start with you, and then we'll work through the panel and see what the thoughts are here.
Yeah. So one of the first things you have to do is stop dreading it. When we dread anything, it's exhausting. It's something you have to do. You desire this. You want the end goal. So you have to put in the work. And you get to choose if it's exhausting or if, hey, I really want to be here. And if you really want to be here because it's the goal you want, then get happy about it. Get excited to study. Find the challenges. Figure out what you need to learn and really open your mind and change your reaction to studying. Instead of it being this albatross just holding you down, let it go, become the phoenix and rise. And really, it will change everything in your body. I talk about on my call a lot. Have a space to study. Do not sit at like the kitchen table or your bar. Set a space. If you have a door, that's great. Put up a sheet. Make it your space. Make it comfortable. Be excited to go in there. Be excited to learn because you are learning to get to where you want to be, which is an attorney. That is what you want to do. And so this is the work that is required, and be excited about that. And that really will change a lot. I know that's not, but it does change a whole lot of how you approach studying versus, oh God, I really want to do this today. It will bump up your energy. It will bump up your oxytocin. It'll bump up all the good endorphins in your brain when you change how you look at it.
I think that's great. Brianna, I know that you had to go through that process. And I remember you and I did some sessions that you were just fuming, right? Is that a fair way to put it? We had angry Brianna for a while, but you got past that. And then you killed the exam when you retook it. But what was the mental shift that you had to go through?
Yeah, so it was definitely a combination of that anger and exhaustion. A lot of it was what June's talking about with that shifting your mindset and your focus. In fact, there was a student on the mindset coaching call that really helped me shift my focus on it. He had a really great way of shifting his focus about getting MBE questions wrong. And instead of getting super frustrated and mad about getting an MBE question wrong, he was like, I get excited about the fact that I just learned something new. I got to learn something I didn't know before, and now I know it. And I was like, it can't really be that simple, can it? And it absolutely was. Shifting that to being excited about learning more things about this profession that you're fixing to go into can be an enormous part of that hurdle. And then the second part of it that really helped me shift my focus was really honing in on my why, really figuring out why in the heck I wanted this so badly to begin with. And it's peeling back those layers. So the immediate thing was I want financial freedom. Okay, taking the bar exam helped me achieve financial freedom. Yes, okay. But why do I want financial freedom? Because I want to travel and see the world. Why do I want to travel and see the world? That's what was exposed to me when I was a child. Why does that matter? Well, because I'd love to expose my children to it. So it's so on and so forth. And you have to keep digging down into those questions as to what response is going to give you that gut drive to force yourself to sit down and study. And once you find that, you're not going to have any issues with motivation. That why is going to drive you every single time to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, to sit down and listen to the horrible law. They're not horrible, but the lectures.
Wait,
between-
those lectures are not horrible.
No, they're great. What, June?
Brianna, I want to jump in because you said exactly what I wanted you to say, which was 4:30 a.m. You guys, I'm going to tell you a Brianna story. If you work with me, even on group coaching, I can tell you the exact moment your mindset shift. The exact moment from Brianna. So again, she changed her schedule because she was feeling very pulled between studying and her family. And she changed her schedule. It was getting up super, super early to have very good study time, very focused study time. So her evenings she could have with her family and not feel that guilt and feel pulled that she was giving up for something and all of this. And the shift for her, I think, changed where she no longer grumbled about getting up that early was when I think it was a birthday or something you guys had going on that evening. And you went and you had done all your work for the day, for your study for the day. And you actually went and enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And you didn't think about studying. You enjoyed, you were in the moment with your family because you had already done your study plan for that day. It was done for the day. And that was, I think, the major shift for you of, oh my gosh, this is actually working for me.
Yeah.
And that for me was a beautiful moment to just witness that. And everything changed. Everything changed from that moment on. It was no longer angry, Brianna.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
I'm all in. I got this. Nothing's going to stop me.
Go ahead.
I recognize that time management, the compartmentalizing of my day and my time, and that I can do it all and I can be the person I need to be and put my bar exam studies first. That's why all of that shifted.
And I want to jump to Amanda because when you were studying, Amanda, you had, God, I can't even remember how many different things were going on in your life. You were teaching, you were studying, you were working at the school, you were doing all these different things and studying for the bar in a relatively short period of time. You were on fire, weren't you?
Yeah. And I think it goes exactly to what it's not like it was easy, right? But it goes back to what Brianna says, like you can have it all. It just requires some thought and patience and practice, right? And maybe some trial and error. We've seen that as an example here too. And just like Brianna's example, right? Or some people are like, I can't stay up after work to study. Maybe we need to change your schedule to study in the morning. What can you do instead of what can't you do? So yeah, there's certainly a lot going on in my life and I was balancing a ton of different things. So I truly know how it feels, but it's possible.
And I think the commonality here is that you both had a huge why in terms of what you were doing. Tracy, I want to go to you because you've mentored a lot of young attorneys. You've seen a lot of attorneys come into your courtroom, and some of them really want to be there, and some of them probably not so much.
That's exactly right. When I read this comment from this student about, I'm so ready to have this behind, whenever I get an attorney in a courtroom in front of me who was obviously just wanting to get this behind them, it came out in the way they presented their case. And they presented their case in a way that was not confident, in a way that was not organized, in a way that I couldn't follow it. So I encourage this student and all others saying, oh my gosh, I just want to get this behind you, to reframe, which is why I gave you that acronym today, reframe. This is not something to get behind you. This is something for you to get behind. This is something for you to live into in your future, because the way you take this test, the way we teach you to take this test is the way you practice law. And if you take it to heart, what's being taught here, you're going to have such a leg up on other attorneys that are just starting out in practice, because you're going to be coming in with an attitude of, this is what I need to say. This is how I'm going to say it. And this is why you need to rule in my favor, Judge. And that's so critical. So if you are thinking this is something you need to get behind you, then I suggest you go through RAIN and do some introspection, do some acknowledging, do some recognizing of what's going on here. And then I encourage you to reframe.
I think there's a lot of wisdom here that you've heard from folks. I want to flip this. We also got a few questions this week that were in this framework. A student said, I'm writing to ask about the time it takes to prepare for the bar. I hesitate to ask for leave on the job. I'd like to take 2.5 full months off from work to fully prepare for the exam, but I think maybe I need to postpone to February of 2024. I've postponed once before, and I still think I've got a long way to go. Do you have any advice for me? And my advice to this student, and I'll be curious to see what the panel said, my advice was take the July exam. You don't need 2.5 months off of work to prepare for the exam. Our course takes 250, maybe 300 hours to complete. I sometimes think people make the process too big, too long, too complicated. In general, what we've tried to do is to make it streamlined so that you get what you need when you need it, the way you need it. I see these comments about my lectures being too long. I'm only slightly offended by all of that. But the reality is that this whole course is pretty streamlined for you. And I think when somebody says, I need to quit the entire world for 2.5 months and do nothing but study for the bar, that's going too far, in my view. Amanda, what do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I still think you need that balance. It is a balance. I think you can go too far, and then that can cause you to overthink. It can cause you to burn out. By the time you get to the exam, you have nothing left, right? And you need to have something left in the end. So a lot of people in the questions are coming up. What about fatigue, not getting pumped up? Don't forget to eat and exercise and spend time with the people that you love. You can do this without giving up everything for a few
Mm.
months.
And Brianna, when you're doing the time management workshop, you're not telling people to quit their jobs, are you?
Oh, heck no. No, not at all. That's a priority. You're not getting rid of things out of your life. We're trying to figure out how to carve out that time for your studies.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what y'all are talking about, taking 2.5 months off for someone who's probably normally pretty busy. That can backfire real fast. If you think that you're going to be taking time enough to sit down and study for 8 to 9 hours every single day until the bar exam, you're probably going to find yourself finding everything else under the sun to do. You're not going to sit down and study, and then you're going to be a month away from the bar exam, and it's going to be anxiety is going to creep up on you, and it's avoidance. So I really encourage this person to. I think the primary question this person needs to be asking is if they truly can carve out enough time in their schedule to be able to put in the adequate hours to be able to pass the exam, which I think any normal person would be able to. And then 2, if you really want to keep maintaining this 10 to 12 hours per week, if that's working for, then yes, maybe you should consider taking the February exam. Don't overload yourselves, but it is possible to take this July bar exam without taking 2.5 months off.
Yeah, I would say right now, if you're starting today to study for the July bar, you need about 20 hours a week. That's about where it fits in. Now, as we get closer, obviously that number gets higher. And so you may need to, if you can't dial in 20 hours or 25 hours, you may need to look at the February test. But here's the key. If you're going to sit for the February test, start studying now. Don't wait until 90 days before the February test, right? Which is what human nature tends to do. But start now and build some momentum. And the final thing I would say about it, and then I'll open up if anybody else wants to comment, is when you look at the pass rates, those overall pass rates include all of those 3Ls that had nothing to do for 8 weeks except study for the bar. So they were literally in that 10, 12 hour a day mode, and we're still looking at 30 and 35% pass rate. So there's no guarantee that just putting in those kinds of hours is going to get you the result. And so I think it's important that people take this balance that you guys talked about. Tracy or June, you have anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I will. Everybody has to answer this question for themselves. And I would ask you to ask yourself what's really going on here. What am I afraid of? What is holding me back? That's that introspection part. What is it? What is going to be different if I wait until the next bar exam? Is there a hybrid that I could come up with, a different study schedule, maybe a few less hours at work and still work? But I agree, if you just drop something else is going to fill that void, and there's going to be every excuse under the sun why you can't get to your studying, because that's not what's really going on. And you have to ask yourself, why am I not doing the studying? Why am I not devoting myself to this? And that's the question to ask, really, not whether you need to quit your job.
Yeah. June, you have anything to add?
I agree with what Tracy's saying. When it's something we don't really want to commit to, we make excuses and we start grasping for straws. Maybe I should quit my job. But here's the thing. I have coached so many students who did that or took the time off. And unless you are supremely disciplined, you don't study. It's like Brianna said, you do other things, and then you have to treat it. If you do this, you have to treat it like it's your job. Clock in a day, you clock in, you have to discipline yourself. And most people are not disciplined enough to do it. So I actually think having an outside thing and then coming back and studying gives you a little bit of pressure, keeps you on more of a schedule. It really is beneficial, but either way, it can all be done. But I think it's just more of an excuse because I guarantee you, the majority of us spend 20 hours between social media and TV and just not doing anything of importance. So the time can be found. That's why Brianna's time management coaching call is so brilliant, because there is time. We all have the same amount of time.
And I'll put in a plug here for June's mindset coaching. If you're struggling with that stuff, there might be some mindset stuff going on here. And doing the sessions with June can be time really well spent and very valuable. So talk about that. Get to another question that came up. They were asking, how do you recommend listening to the lectures and taking notes? The same idea of how do I spend my time when I'm doing that? Let me start by saying you should be skimming or photo reading the written material first, so that you've got a foundational piece. Then as you're going through the lecture, my view is that you should essentially listen to and watch the lectures holistically. You should let them run pretty much without interruption and take minor notes, not extensive notes, but just let it all wash over you. Somebody said when Jackson lectures, they're in a conversation form that seems to cover a lot of different scenarios. That's right. I'm not lecturing section by section of the outline. That's deliberate. I'm lecturing to try and give you the overall picture. And then when you're done, that's when I want you to go back and create the mind map, go back to your outline, spend the time and bring that material together. And that's what I would prefer that people do. Now, let me turn it over to the two of you, because you had to actually go through that. What would your recommendation be when somebody says, how do I listen and take notes?
Brianna, you want to go first?
Sure. So I actually played with how to do this a couple of different ways throughout my studies. I started by first and foremost, I do not recommend that you sit and just take notes while you are listening to these lectures. It's a waste of time. You're not going to go back and look at them again. It's just like your law school notes. Maybe you did go back and go through them, but just don't do it. You have to let the material sink in and really just pay attention to it, not writing down the words. If I'm sitting down and I'm in an appointment with a client, I'm not writing word for word everything that the client is telling me, because then I'm not paying attention. So let the material sink in. So the way that I operated with notes and taking and lectures and stuff, because I was in the horrible habit of wanting to take notes while listening to lectures, because that's what I was taught. So I started with trying to make my mind maps while I was listening to the lectures. That's how I started, because it helped me feel like I was doing something this. But even then, you're not writing word for word with any of the different scenarios or anything like that. You're very much just, okay, bullet point, thinking of things that come off of it. So you're limiting your notes. I loved, and then I forced myself into having to listen to the lecture and do my mind map later, because I was starting to having to take some long trips. And so I was listening to the lectures in my car. Then I'd go home and I'd create my mind map. I was shocked at how much more I enjoyed that experience, being able to let the material sink in and then do my mind maps. And I can still remember, because I did it that way, I can still remember exactly how I did that mind map, because I was doing it from memory, and I was not memory, but I was doing it from the things that I had heard in the lecture and letting that soak in. Those mind maps stand out to me so much more than the mind maps I did with note taking. So it was a process for me, but I had fun with it and I played with how to do them, but I never sat down and just took notes. So I encourage you to figure out what works for you. And if that's helpful in trying to find this process, I encourage you just to sit down, listen to the lectures, and then try to do a mind map afterwards.
Awesome. Thanks. Amanda, how about
Yeah, so I love, Brianna, that you experimented with doing it two ways, because I think I had done that as well. Trying to, and first I was really just doing traditional note taking as I was listening, which I didn't end up liking at all. And then I was doing mind maps as I was listening to the lectures. When I ran out of time, actually, at the end of it, like I was like, okay, I need to start moving faster. And I think you'll hear all of us tell you this. All right, y'all, you're getting caught in the weeds or taking a little too long. I'll like keep pace, right? So as I realized I needed to keep pace and keep to the time that is outlined in the course, I was listening and doing my mind maps at the same time. I agree though, Brianna, there was plenty of times where I was doing other stuff. I had to be driving, I was commuting, I was going to be in traffic, and I would listen to those lectures and then do my mind maps afterwards. So I thought that was a really effective way. I think again, there is some like trial and error here, right? But I think that what you're hearing and what I'm hearing from everyone on the panel is that the formula does work. The formula outlined for you all really does work.
Yeah. Thanks. That's great. I hope that's helpful. I hope that gives you some ideas. I would also say, if you're really wondering about how to do any of this, how do I study? Jump on a group coaching call. You're going to get the expertise of our coaches, but you'll also hear from other students. I think it's a valuable resource. So encourage you to do that, or post your question in our community group and let the community respond to you as well. We've got a few minutes left. Tracy, you were in Nassau in the Bahamas last week, and I understand the water was lovely and beautiful, but there was an undertow. And I think you wanted to talk about that.
That's right. I live in Denver, Colorado. Not too many ocean environments in Denver, Colorado. So when I went out to Nassau, and I was fortunate to have a hotel room that overlooked the ocean, I found myself out there at night, just sitting in a chair by myself and taking in the ocean, just taking in the sound of it, taking in the smell of it, not needing to be in it, but just taking it all in. When I was listening to Brianna talk about how to listen to the lectures, that sort of is the same type of metaphor. The lectures, the body of knowledge is this big ocean. It has a lot of power. And there are times to be in it and to be swimming in it. And there's times to just let it inform you, change your orientation about how small you are and how much power there is out there and how beautiful it is and how mind clearing it can be out there. Then the next morning, you go down on the beach and you're looking at little tiny creatures running around on the sand, and you're getting more specific as you do when you're looking about the topics in this whole body of study, and you get a lot more, I guess, observant is what I want to say about those little tiny things. And swimming in the ocean, you have to respect the power. So you have to respect the power of what is in front of you here, the task that's in front of you, the statistics, all your colleagues, the thousands of people trying to pass this exam at the same time. So you respect the power. You keep your head above water, right? That's the time management. That's using the tools. You can dip down every once in a while, but that's not sustainable. You have to keep your head above the water. And when there's an undertow, what you learn about it is don't swim against the undertow. Swim with it. Swim with it. Swim along the shore. Don't try to go against the undertow. So if you put that metaphor together with what I brought to you today with rain, and you actually do that exercise tonight, think about this metaphor of the ocean. Think about how you're going to recognize what you need to do, acknowledge where you've been and where you want to go. That's the why that Brianna and Amanda were talking about. Get introspective about what it's going to take for you to get there. And then reframe. That's why we go on vacation. It's to reframe. So I was glad to reframe in the ocean and had some fun times with my big brother here. And now we're back and we're reframing again this week and helping you get ready to take and pass the bar.
Yeah. And boot camp's a great way to reframe too. So just say that. Jude, did you want to wrap us up?
Yeah. Again, very crazy the whole way. I think we tend to overthink things, especially since we're adults and we have some life experiences and some trauma in our lives. And we tend to overthink and think that everything has to be so hard and so difficult. And if it's easy, something must be wrong. And I want to challenge you on that thinking. It can be easy. It can flow. It can feel right. It can feel good. And when you're in that space, that's where the magic happens. That's where it just all comes together. One of my personal mantras that I like to tell myself is everything I do is with ease and grace. And so I really give that to you. Everything I do is with ease and grace. Is it always? No. But it's something I strive for. And I don't look at it like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard. I look at everything as, okay, what do I need to know here to be able to do this? And I might not get it right the first time. I might not get it right the 10th time. But each of those gives me a learning experience of how to do it better the next time. There you go.
As always, fun to talk to all of you and to get your insights. There was a lot of good wisdom imparted today. Thank you so much for talking about the undertow, Tracy, and Brianna and Amanda. Thank you for your thoughts about how to study and how to get at this. And June, of course, always talking about mindset. We will be back next Wednesday. We're still just a few days ahead of the California results. Don't know if we'll get Georgia results in yet by that time or not, but good luck to everybody who's still waiting on their results. If you got your results and they were not what you were expecting or anticipating, we encourage you to contact us, reach out, let us show you how to make the next bar exam your last bar exam. We certainly can do that. We had great success with so many people so far in this season, and I've got a bunch of interviews scheduled over the next few days. I think you're going to love these interviews. They're really special stories coming up. So make sure you check those out as they come along and get into the group coaching calls. 2 spots left open for boot camp. I don't know, man. Yeah, get your golden ticket. You will regret it if you're not there. And then I'm going to go put some suntan lotion on and for cream because I'm burned and get back to the work here. It's good to see everybody. Thank you all for being with us. We'll see you again next Wednesday. Have a great week of study. Thanks, Brianna. Thanks, Amanda, Tracy, June. We'll see you all again next week. Bye-bye, everybody.